Hi, my name is Amanda Schrieber, and I'm teaching a lesson today on theme. You might want to grab a pencil or something to write with, because during my lesson you'll want to jot a few notes down. And then at the end of my lesson, there's a QR code. So if you don't have that on your phone or device, you can download that for free. It's a QR code app. And on that QR code at the end, you'll see there's directions for my extension activity, as well as another passage and some questions that we'll be asking today. Our focus today is going to be on Standard 4 RL22. It states paraphrase or retell the main events in a story, myth, legend, or novel. Identify the theme and provide evidence for the interpretation. Before we begin though, let's do a refueling break. This is called sphere breathing. You want to pretend that you're holding a large balloon between your hands, keeping your elbows relaxed at your side. Inhale and take a big breath in through your nose. And exhale through your mouth. Inhale and exhale. Inhale again. Exhale. Now let's try it with our eyes closed. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. You can open your eyes. Did your hands come precisely back together? I'm sure they did. Now that we're calm, alert, and ready to learn, let's begin our lesson. Our I can statement today, I'm going to say it and you repeat after me. I can identify theme and provide evidence for the interpretation. Let's watch a video, and as we watch this video, I want you to think about what you already know about theme that you've learned this year. All right, now we're going to read a passage called The Lonely Star. And in this passage, it's about a star that's all alone and trying to find some friends that are not close to him, but hopefully he'll make some friends. In this passage, while I'm reading, I want you to just jot down, so it's this time to take your paper and pencil or whatever you have to write with, and jot down some notes as I'm reading. I want you to think about the setting, I want you to think about the characters and what they've learned, and think also about the conflict and if it was resolved or not. Astrid was only 300 years old and therefore still just a kid when it came to the heavenly bodies in her galaxy. It was quiet out in space, and Astrid's neighbors were light years away, much too far to be able to have a conversation, let alone become friends. She was a beautiful star, twinkling so prettily that she was admired from afar by the populations of animals and humanoids and alien beings on the planets far below her. But the truth was, she was lonely. Every few decades, somebody might pass by, and Astrid would feel hopeful. A long time ago, a satellite went sailing past her, but when she called out a happy greeting, it answered her gruffly in Russian and continued on its way. The only thing close to a friend she'd had was a comet who would come close enough during her orbit to talk for a short while. Her name was Haley, but she only came by every 79 years, or thereabouts, so it was a long time between visits. Astrid missed her. More recently, a funny-looking fellow with wheels, solar panels, and cameras crossed her path, and they chatted briefly while they could. His name was Rover. He'd said, and he was on his way to Mars for an important scientific mission. Astrid had hoped to see him again, but she never did. The star tried to keep herself busy. She learned several alien languages. She practiced math and physics every day, and she studied the constellations. She also daydreamed a lot, rotating slowly on her axis, humming songs to herself. Her voice was the only thing she could hear in space. The vastness around her was completely silent. In the distance, a flare of red light was leaving a trail through the cosmos. Astrid perked up. Could that be Haley? Had it been 79 years already? The star glowed as brightly as she could, welcoming her old friend. Haley finally got close enough to talk. Good to see you, Astrid, she called out. You too, called out the young star. It's been so quiet around here. They had a long conversation about all the news in the solar system over the past century. But too soon, Haley had to once again continue on her way. Astrid couldn't hide her disappointment. It's so long between visits, Haley. I'm going to be lonely again without you. Cheer up, Astrid, said the comet. I have a thought. I've picked up several new meteorites in my tail over the last few decades, and I could shake a few off so they could stay in your orbit and keep you company. That would be wonderful, cried Astrid. She wouldn't be alone anymore. Haley shook her tail, and several large meteorites floated loose and headed toward the star. These guys are a lot of fun, Haley said. They broke off from the moon near planet Lohala. Those were where those crazy Lohalans often visited. So of course, the meteorites learned all the funniest jokes and the best songs. They will be great company for you. See you next century. Astrid thanked Haley profusely, and even before the comet was out of sight, the little star was already giggling at the silly jokes her new friends were sharing. So let's think for a moment. What was the setting, and how did it influence the story? So thinking back in the story, looking at your notes, what did you write down as the setting? Well, if we look back in the passage, at the very beginning, the author tells us that Astrid was only 300 years old, and therefore still just a kid when it came to the heavenly bodies in her galaxy. It was quiet out in space. Well, the word galaxy, I know, is a place, and space is also a place. So I know the setting of the story is galaxy, or space. And how did that influence my story? Well, we know that by the author depicting space, or galaxy, as the setting, it allows the author to know that this really was a star all alone out in the middle of nowhere. It's a big place that we're in space. the main character, and what lesson did he or she learn? So think about what you wrote down. Who was the main character? Again, if we look back at the beginning of the story, the author tells us that Astrid was only 300 years old. So Astrid is our main character, and we saw her name throughout the story. What lesson did he or she learn? Well, we learned that Haley gave her some friends so that she could not be lonely anymore. What is the conflict? So what did you write down for your conflict of this story, or the problem that Astrid faced? Again, if we look back to the beginning of the story, we notice that she was a beautiful star twinkling so prettily, and that she was admired from afar by the populations of animals and humanoids and alien beings on the planets far below her. But the truth was, she was lonely. And so that is the conflict in the story that Astrid is facing, that she is all alone out in space. How is the conflict in the text resolved? Or is it resolved? What did you write down? Looking back in the story, I noticed that the conflict was resolved when Haley had a thought, and she picked up several new meteorites in her tail over the last few decades. So she then shook them off so that they could stay in Astrid's orbit and keep her company. So yes, the conflict was resolved. Which of these is a theme of Lonely Star? And what evidence supports your answer? A, cleverness always wins. B, being kind to others can go a long way. C, treat others the way that you want to be treated. Or D, Astrid learns to be patient. Well, what we already know about theme is that it's a universal statement that's not specific to a story. So therefore, I know that Astrid learns to be patient, that's specific to the story. It's not something that I can use across different books or stories that I've read. So therefore, we can cross that one out already and eliminate that answer. The other three, however, we need to look deeper into our text to really figure out what evidence we have to support any of these other themes. So going back into my passage, I can note that we already figured out how she resolved the conflict. And that was when Haley had a thought, and she picked up several new meteorites in her tail over the last few decades, and she could shake them off so they could stay in Astrid's orbit and keep her company. So we know that she resolved that conflict. Haley was kind to her friend by letting her have some of the friends that she had picked up along the way. We also know that Astrid even said she wouldn't be alone anymore. So she's not going to be lonely because she's going to have friends. She's also excited about that because she even stated it would be wonderful. The other thing that we note is that Haley says that they will be great company for her. So Haley is recognizing that these meteorites are going to be somebody that she's going to have fun with and get to play and have a good time. And then finally, Astrid thanked Haley profusely, meaning that she thanked her a lot. So she was also very happy and thankful for what Haley had done. Even at the very end, it says that the little star was already giggling before Haley left. So thinking back to my themes again that I had left over. Being kind to others can go a long way. Well, we know that Haley was kind. She was so kind that she was able to leave some friends behind for her friend that she saw every 79 years or thereabouts. So then I believe that we have evidence to prove that being kind to others can go a long way. So B is a possible theme for this story. Looking also, we have treat others the way you want to be treated. Again, it's a universal statement, and I know that if I think about Haley and what she did for her friend Astrid by leaving those 3 or 4, however many meteorites behind to help her friend not be lonely anymore, that's treating someone how they would want to be treated. So I believe that treating others the way that you want to be treated could also be a possible theme for this story. I think B and C are both good answers. So look again at A. Cleverness always wins. Well, let's think about what that means for a minute. Cleverness always wins. That means you were smart in a situation and you won in the end. Well, thinking about like a game of chess, you have to be smart to win, right? Well, was Haley really being smart to win in the end? I don't really think that's a good theme for this story, because I think Haley, again, was just being kind to her friend in a time of need. So we can cross out A. A would not be a good theme for this story. Again, B and C would be great themes that we could use and have evidence to support our answer. My extension activity today is called Theme in a Bottle. The materials that you'll need: a plastic container. Again, it could be a 2-liter bottle, or it doesn't have to be clear. It could be any different color, and it doesn't have to be a 2-liter bottle. Sometimes you just have like the little Coke bottles that you have that are plastic, but it just needs to be some kind of plastic container that you have at home. You can use construction paper, scissors, tissue paper if you have it, crayons, markers, colored pencils, and glue. Now, I know we probably don't have all of these things at home. Some of you may and some of you may not. So if you have them, by all means you can use them, but you can always substitute for the glue, you can substitute tape, and for the scissors, you can always just rip and tear. So you're going to imagine that a character in the text or story that you're reading wants to share what he or she has learned as a result of his or her experiences throughout their story. The character has decided to send a message in a bottle. So the first step that you're going to do is you're going to take your plastic container, and as you can see, I've decorated the outside. You want it to be the setting of your story. So we've already identified the setting, so this should be pretty easy. I decorated mine. I used tissue paper because I just had it at home. I did not have black tissue paper, and so I just improvised and used the blue. Also, I use the main characters, and I have, you can see Astrid really big because she's all alone, and my other little stars are so far away you can't even tell they're a star. I also have gotten some cotton. I got a cotton ball, and I made my Haley comet, and then I also made little meteorites. I use glitter because I like glitter. And it also just needs to represent or symbolize anything that happened in the story. So that's why I made that to be my bottle. The second step in this is you're going to write a letter. The letter that you write needs to be from that character's point of view, that main character's point of view. You want to start off your letter by telling about who you are, because we all need to know who that main character is. And then if they really liked how, or maybe they didn't like how the problem was resolved, or their conflict was resolved, then you want to state the theme, and you want to state the details, the 3 details that support your evidence. The third step is you're going to just roll up your letter, you're going to stick it inside your bottle, and that way you have your theme in a bottle. And your last step is you're going to share it with your family and friends. Now, I know that right now we can't really do the sharing that we would like to, so you can either FaceTime your bottle to somebody else, or you can share it with your family and friends that are at your house. Now here's the QR code that I mentioned at the beginning. You can scan this. If you didn't have a chance to, you want to make sure that you can get that QR code app. It's free. You can download and you can scan this. Again, what you will get when you scan this, you'll get the directions on how to do our theme in a bottle. There will also be another passage on there about Mark's Lucky Ice Cream. And they're the same 3 questions or 4 questions that we answered earlier today. I really appreciate you hanging out with me today, and I hope you enjoyed our lesson on theme. Thank you very much, and we love and miss you all.